This is unreal. SpaceX has just unveiled what they plan to load onto Starship for its first ever mission to Mars next year. And this payload, it's not just essential for building an outpost on the red planet, it could also rake in billions for the entire Musk empire, all from a single launch. Even crazier, this move could crush China's space ambitions and put SpaceX at the very top as the first and most successful company in the race to explore deep space. So, what exactly is on board, and what's the master plan behind it all? Let's break it down in today's episode of Alpha Tech. We were totally wrong when we said 2025 would be the year the space race gets the most intense. The truth is, this year is just the setup. It's the calm before the storm. Because 2026, that's when things really kick off, when every major space company across the globe launches their most ambitious missions yet. Blue Origin will launch their Blue Ring spacecraft next spring, a brand new platform designed to handle logistics and transport in space, from medium Earth orbit all the way to the moon and beyond. Vast Company plans to launch Haven 1, the world's first commercial space station, later this year with SpaceX, but operations and crew visits won't start until 2026. ULA is also targeting 20 to 25 Vulcan Centaur launches per year, starting in 2026, more than double their 2025 projection. As for China, they haven't announced any plans for next year yet. But make no mistake, they'll be ramping up too. And yet, all of this might get completely overshadowed because Elon Musk just dropped a bombshell.
Then we will launch the first uncrewed Starship to Mars at the end of next year.
And no, this isn't just another empty promise. First, the next Mars launch window opens between October and December 2026, lining up perfectly with Elon's end of next year timeline. Second, Elon's already confirmed that orbital refilling, where one Starship refuels another in orbit, is coming soon. SpaceX plans to start testing that next year, but first, they'll spend the rest of this year testing Block 3, catching both stages with the tower and verifying the vehicle's stability, before building a version capable of orbital refilling. Third, the first flight of Starship Block 3, with Booster 18 and Ship 39, is currently targeting October this year, under Starship Flight 12. That means SpaceX has about a full year to refine the system before the next Mars window. And given how quickly they've iterated through Block 1 and Block 2, it's safe to say Block 3 won't take long to improve and upgrade. In fact, it might be ready just in time. That's the plan for now. But here's the thing. Aren't you curious what payload SpaceX might send on that very first uncrewed Starship mission to Mars? Well, turns out we just got an answer from none other than SpaceX's most powerful woman. Just yesterday, COO Gwynne Shotwell made it official. Get on board. We are going to Mars. SpaceX is now offering Starship services to the Red Planet. We're excited to work with the Italian Space Agency on this first-of-its-kind agreement. More to come. To be more specific, on August 7, 2025, SpaceX and the Italian Space Agency announced a groundbreaking agreement, the first time a national space agency has partnered with SpaceX to send critical science payloads to Mars. Under this deal, SpaceX will use the upcoming Starship Block 3 to deliver Italy's research instruments to the Red Planet as part of the very mission Elon Musk just teased. So, what are they sending? Experiments to test how plants grow in the harsh Martian environment. Radiation sensors to measure how dangerous the planet really is. For humans and electronics. And even a mini weather station to track temperature, pressure, and wind on the surface. All of these instruments will operate not just during the 6-month journey from Earth, but also after touchdown, with landing expected around mid-2027. The goal? Gather the vital data needed to pave the way for future human missions. SpaceX is undoubtedly thrilled about this partnership, because the deal they signed with the Italian Space Agency isn't just commercial. It also includes a key clause. ASI is responsible for sharing all the valuable scientific data SpaceX needs to help lay the groundwork for a future Mars base, which Elon Musk hopes to begin building around 2032. So, what kind of data are we talking about? First off, any Mars base will need a way to grow food locally to reduce reliance on Earth resupply. That's where Italy's plant experiment comes in. It'll test which crops can grow best in Mars-like conditions. Low gravity, just 38% of Earth's. A thin atmosphere made mostly of CO2, surface pressure around 6 millibars, and extreme temperatures ranging from minus 140 degrees Celsius to 20 degrees Celsius. Think lettuce, radishes, or Arabidopsis, plants already tested aboard the ISS, but now under real Martian conditions. The experiment will also explore how to optimize light, water, and nutrients for survival on the red planet. This is huge, and NASA scientists will go nuts for it. Until now, most plant growth studies have been limited to microgravity environments like the ISS. But what we really need is data from Mars's actual surface gravity, 0.38 g, to confirm whether sustainable farming is even possible there. Second, the radiation sensors on board will measure cosmic rays and solar radiation, both on the Martian surface and during the interplanetary journey. And this is just as critical because it ties directly into protecting future astronauts living and working on Mars. Why is that important? Because Mars doesn't have a strong magnetic field, and its thin atmosphere offers little shielding. That means astronauts would be exposed to high radiation levels, estimated at around 0.7 millisieverts per day. To put that into perspective, that's like getting 7 chest X-rays every single day. The sensor data will help quantify the actual radiation risk and inform the design of proper shielding, whether for Mars habitats or spacesuits. NASA has done similar assessments before, using data from the RAD sensor aboard the Curiosity rover, which landed on Mars in 2012. That study estimated that a round-trip mission to Mars would expose astronauts to about 1 sievert of radiation, a serious dose. But radiation isn't just a human health issue. It can also damage electronics. That includes the navigation systems on SpaceX's Optimus humanoid robots, or ISRU machines, that produce oxygen or fuel from the Martian environment. So this data from ASI will also help SpaceX harden their hardware against radiation, a key factor in ensuring safety for future crewed missions targeted for 2028 to 2029, and the Mars base plan for 2032. Armed with this data, SpaceX might even move forward with ideas like underground habitats shielded with Martian regolith, or active shielding using artificial magnetic fields, all without having to fund independent research. A major win for both safety and cost efficiency. So that's what the ISA is bringing to the table. But what about SpaceX? What kind of payloads are they sending?
There we'll send with the Optimus robot, so we can go out there and explore and kind of prepare the way for humans.
That's right. Not some fancy scientific experiment. Not one of those state-of-the-art Mars rovers. But Optimus, a humanoid robot powered by Tesla's most advanced AI, built by the biggest electric car company in the US, sounds a little strange, right? But Optimus actually plays a key role in SpaceX's bigger plans. He's designed for repetitive, dangerous, or just plain boring tasks, exactly the kind of work that'll be needed on Mars. Exploring the surface, collecting environmental data, starting early surveys, all of that can be done by Optimus. That means less risk and less burden on human crews when they eventually arrive. And let's not forget, this is also a classic Elon Musk PR genius. The image of a humanoid robot stepping onto the red planet, you can bet the whole world's going to be talking about it. It's viral gold. And when people ask, who made that robot? The answer is Tesla. The brand gets more fame, more trust, and probably billions of dollars in added value. It reminds me of that legendary moment during Falcon Heavy's first launch. Elon ran out of the control room, hands on his head, smiling like a kid, watching his rocket soar into the sky. On board, a red Tesla Roadster launched on February 6, 2018. That stunt worked. In the first quarter of 2018, Tesla delivered nearly 30,000 cars, up from about 28,000 the quarter before. And from there, the growth never stopped. Fast forward to Q1 of 2025, and Tesla's selling over 336,000 vehicles. People talk about Tesla. They trust Tesla. That kind of brand recognition is priceless. And guess what? Optimus might just do the same thing, this time, on Mars. All right, if you're excited to witness this first mission, drop a 2026 in the comments. And if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure to hit that button. Alpha Tech's got plenty more exciting episodes coming your way. Now let's dive a little deeper into a major leap forward made by SpaceX's biggest competitor, China. This Thursday, China announced that it had successfully completed a full takeoff and landing test for its crewed lunar lander at a secret test facility. As you can see in the image, they've suspended the lander from a massive rig, simulating lunar gravity conditions for the test. The spacecraft is called Lanyu, which literally means embracing the moon. This test included both the landing module and the propulsion module. According to the China Manned Space Agency, the test was completed on Wednesday and marks a major milestone in China's efforts to send astronauts to the moon. It's also the first time China has tested the off-Earth takeoff and landing capabilities of a crewed spacecraft. The lander is designed to carry 2 astronauts between lunar orbit and the moon's surface. It'll also deliver a rover and a suite of scientific instruments. After touchdown, the lander will serve as a life support hub, power center, and data station, essentially the astronauts' base of operations while they explore the moon. Following this successful test, China has set its sights on a bold goal: landing astronauts on the moon before 2030, with a focus on scientific exploration. This move is seen as a direct challenge to both NASA and SpaceX. After all, China had previously announced plans to work with Russia to build a nuclear power station on the moon sometime between 2032 and 2035, but maybe they're being a little too optimistic about their timeline. Let's not forget, NASA sent astronauts to the moon back in the 1970s. A time when China's economy was still underdeveloped and showed no signs of competing in the space game. And now they're talking about landing the Lanyu lunar module? Well, they might not realize that NASA has already landed 5 rovers on Mars, every single one of them successfully. The 5th rover, Perseverance, launched in 2021, has been operating for over 1,588 sols. That's about 1,631 Earth days, or more than 4.5 years at the time you're watching this video. Perseverance is still active, roaming around Jezero crater, regularly sending back images and data via the Mars Relay Network. This system relies on orbiters like the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter and MAVEN, using a combination of UHF and X-band frequencies relayed through the rover's high-gain antenna. Meanwhile, China is still hungry to copy this technology, because without it, they're not getting anywhere near Elon Musk's dream of Mars. But when it comes to the lunar race, things might not be so one-sided. NASA Administrator Sean Duffy made a striking statement during a press conference titled Unleashing American Drone Supremacy, hosted by the U.S. Department of Transportation, an agency now under his leadership, on August 5th. According to Duffy, the nuclear reactor NASA is currently fast-tracking is part of a much bigger plan in this new space race. The ultimate goal is to establish a permanent human presence on the moon. We're in a race to the moon, a race with China, Duffy told reporters, when asked about reports earlier in the week regarding his ambitious push to send a 100-kilowatt nuclear reactor to the moon by 2030. And he's right. If we want a lunar base, we need power. Reliable, continuous, sustainable power. That means nuclear energy. So, as we move into the late 2020s, the lunar race is shaping up to be intense. The big question is, does China really have what it takes to threaten the US in this high-stakes showdown? One of the most strategic steps in humanity's journey to Mars is actually much closer to home, the moon. While Mars is the ultimate goal, the moon serves as a critical stepping stone in that journey, both technically and logistically. Launching directly from Earth to Mars presents significant challenges due to Earth's strong gravity. It requires enormous amounts of energy and fuel, making the transportation of large payloads into deep space extremely costly and complex. In contrast, the moon has only 1/6 of Earth's gravity, providing a far more energy-efficient launch point for interplanetary missions. Recognizing this, NASA has prioritized establishing a sustainable presence on the moon through the Artemis program. Artemis is not just about landing astronauts on the lunar surface again, but also about developing the infrastructure, technologies, and experience needed to support longer-duration missions farther into the solar system. Ultimately, the moon acts both as a testing ground and a launch pad, making it an essential part of the roadmap to Mars. While it may sound like a straightforward mission to Mars, NASA currently lacks a transportation system powerful enough to carry humans there. The SLS rocket and Orion spacecraft were once expected to handle such interplanetary missions, but due to high costs and challenges in hardware production, NASA has decided to limit SLS to Artemis missions to the moon only. Unlike that, SpaceX appears to have a concrete plan to establish a long-term presence on Mars, centered around its superior launch vehicle, Starship, the largest and most powerful rocket ever built. SpaceX has established a mass production line for Starship at its Starbase facility and continues to demonstrate an ability to innovate, embrace risk, and learn from failure to achieve success in human spaceflight. However, sending Starship directly to Mars would involve a long, complex journey. That's why NASA and SpaceX are strategic partners. Shortly, if everything proceeds smoothly, the Artemis program will mark a major milestone in that collaboration. Starship will become the primary lunar lander. If all goes according to plan, the first crewed mission to Mars will be a perfect combination of NASA and SpaceX, each bringing its own strengths to achieve a giant leap for humanity. Before humans set foot on Mars, at least one, possibly several resupply missions will be deployed to ensure everything necessary for astronaut survival and return to Earth is already prepared and waiting for them on the red planet. This process is expected to begin with the Artemis 10 mission. In addition to its lunar landing objectives, Artemis 10 will carry a special payload called Mars Cargo Phase 1, which will be deployed into lunar orbit. Following that, Artemis 11 will carry out a similar mission, including a moon landing and the deployment of Mars Cargo Phase 2. NASA has not yet revealed the exact design of these resupply spacecraft, but we can imagine them as fully equipped vessels, ready for a future Mars landing. These pre-deployed shipments will include the necessary energy sources for the crew's surface operations, as well as mobile vehicles for exploration and transportation. Artemis 12 will mark a major milestone, the time when the crewed Mars lander, Mars 1, along with supporting surface systems and the HABMAR transfer vehicle, are delivered to the Gateway station, assuming the station is not canceled due to cost and delay problems in recent years. NASA plans to use Gateway, a space station orbiting the Moon, as the launch point for the Mars mission. From here, the HABMAR transfer vehicle, carrying the Mars 1 lander, will depart lunar orbit and head for the red planet, with the capability to return to Gateway once the mission is complete. Currently, NASA has not released official designs for the two main spacecraft involved in this mission and has no specific construction plans yet. Therefore, once again, we can imagine SpaceX's Starship stepping in to fulfill this role. In theory, Starship can travel to Mars and return to Earth with a single vehicle. However, NASA's approach might be more logical in terms of safety and redundancy. According to the plan, NASA would use two spacecraft, one optimized for transit and the other serving as both the lander and return vehicle. This is a safer approach because it provides a backup in case one vehicle experiences a failure. In this scenario, two astronauts would remain in Mars orbit for the duration of the mission, while the other two would descend to the Martian surface aboard a pressurized lander, which would serve as both their habitat and living space during 30 days of operations on Mars. The Mars Surface Habitat Module will also function as a mobile rover, serving as the crew's home during their 30-day stay on the red planet. It will not only support daily living, but also act as a hub for scientific and exploration activities. Mobility is critical, as after several months in a microgravity environment, the human body needs time to recover before astronauts can don spacesuits and step outside. Integrating a mobile habitat allows the crew to begin their exploration missions immediately, without delays during the recovery period. However, this becomes more challenging if Starship is used as the lander due to its tall structure with the crew compartment located far from the surface. Still, with the technical capabilities of the SpaceX team, this challenge is likely solvable. Even so, the biggest challenge isn't just about descending from a tall crew cabin, it's about landing safely on Mars. As Starship approaches the red planet, it carries tremendous momentum and must slow down significantly to avoid a hard impact. In space, slowing down requires thrust-burning fuel, but fuel is an extremely precious resource on space missions due to limited storage and the priority it must share with life support systems and crew equipment. Fortunately, there's another solution to aerodynamic drag. This is the force that helps slow a vehicle down without burning fuel. Although Mars has a very thin atmosphere, only about 1% of Earth's sea level air pressure, Starship can still use it to decelerate before performing a final engine burn for landing. The sequence would work as follows. First, the Starship will dive into the Martian atmosphere at a steep angle, flipping so that its heat shield faces up and the nose points downward. This orientation maximizes aerodynamic drag, helping the vehicle descend more rapidly. Then it transitions into a belly flop position, flying horizontally to further maximize drag. When it reaches the lower atmosphere where the air is densest, the Raptor engines will reignite in the final seconds for the landing burn, eliminating the remaining velocity and allowing the spacecraft to touch down gently on the Martian surface. Of course, you can't talk about going to Mars without mentioning Elon Musk, but in reality, there are other fascinating ideas for reaching Mars as well. One such idea is a Mars landing concept developed by a true American hero and one of the founding fathers of human space exploration, Dr. Buzz Aldrin. Buzz Aldrin's Mars Cycler is one of those ideas that sounds like science fiction, until you realize it was dreamed up by a guy who walked on the moon and holds a doctorate in astronautics. The concept is surprisingly elegant. Instead of launching a new spacecraft every time we want to go to Mars, we build one big vessel, the Cycler, that loops continuously between Earth and Mars. It doesn't stop or land. It just swings by each planet in a fixed orbit. When it gets close, smaller taxi ships would launch to dock with it in deep space, ferrying people and supplies to and from the Cycler. The beauty of this system is its efficiency. Because the Cycler uses gravity assists and solar-powered ion engines to stay in motion, it uses very little fuel, which means more space on board for crew and cargo. Travel time would be just 4 to 6 months, not bad, considering the long haul to Mars. But while the idea is brilliant on paper, it's a massive challenge in practice. First, the Cycler would have to be built in space either in low Earth orbit or maybe even on the moon, and it would be enormous, big enough to house a crew of 6 plus all the supplies they'd need for the journey. Once built, it would slowly accelerate using its ion engine, and over time, start its loop between the two planets. The catch? When it swings past Earth, it's not stopping. That's where the real tension comes in a high-speed, high-stakes docking maneuver known as an elliptical rendezvous. Miss it, and the taxi ship doesn't have the fuel to turn around. It's a one-shot deal. There's also the scale to consider. Aldrin's vision was never about building a city on Mars. He imagined something more like a research outpost with around 60 people. So while the Mars Cycler is an incredibly smart and sustainable way to get to Mars, it's not built for moving huge numbers of people. In the end, it's a plan rooted in precision and long-term thinking, a quieter, more calculated path to becoming a multi-planet species. Now, shift gears, because here comes Robert Zubrin, a veteran Mars advocate with a much more hands-on approach and a few sharp critiques of Elon Musk's full-size Starship. Zubrin agrees with the overall Mars mission goals, but he thinks Musk's spacecraft is just too big, especially for landing on Mars, where the thin atmosphere makes slowing down a giant vehicle incredibly difficult. So, his solution? The mini Starship. Here's the clever twist. Instead of sending a massive Starship all the way to Mars, Zubrin proposes launching it into Earth orbit like usual, refueling it with only 3 tankers, a big improvement over the usual 8 to 10, and then having it deploy a smaller mini Starship. This lighter craft undocks in orbit, fires up its own engine, and heads off to Mars. Why go through all this trouble just to go smaller? Well, Mars makes big landings hard. Its atmosphere is too thin to slow down a heavy ship with air resistance alone, and relying on high-speed aerobraking plus a dramatic engine burn as Musk's Starship would is a risky maneuver. A mini Starship, on the other hand, could take a more controlled approach, gently slow down in the upper atmosphere and then hover down using a single engine, similar to how past Mars landers like Curiosity and Perseverance made it to the surface. Coming back is another challenge. A full-size Starship would need 600 tons of fuel to return to Earth fuel that must be produced on Mars. That means installing 30,000 square meters of solar panels, about 6 football fields, and running the system for over a year. That's a huge infrastructure investment. But a mini Starship? It would only need 1/16 of that fuel, which means just 1 football field of panels. Still big, but far more manageable. Sure, the mini Starship can't carry quite as much 50 metric tons versus the full Starship's 100, but that's still more than anything else we've got, and far more practical when you consider the realities of Martian infrastructure. So, whether it's Aldrin's elegant orbital shuttle or Zubrin's compact return vehicle, both ideas highlight a critical truth. There's no one-size-fits-all solution for getting to Mars. It's going to take creativity, compromise, and a whole lot of problem solving. But with pioneers like Aldrin and Zubrin laying the groundwork, we're one step closer to making Mars more than just a dream.